Hi, Schlockmeister fans. This one's called The Hanging Woman. I don't know what to expect. Let's check it out. The film starts out with a funeral.
Did you hear someone scream? Perhaps it was just a ghost. What do you think, Father? Why, of course not. A bird more likely than not.
Funeral has just ended.
Some sort of huge bird.
This woman goes and checks the corpse, opens up the coffin, and pulls out some documents of some sort. Now, although we don't see exactly what happens to her, moments later, something comes out of the tomb and kills her.
That's for the living.
This is Serge. He's the nephew of the Count who just died.
You can see I'm well prepared. Tomorrow, would you please send my bags?
He's come to visit to see if he's in the will. That evening, Serge has a strange encounter with a hanging woman. That's the woman who was in the tomb. He recognizes her picture immediately.
This girl here in the portrait, who is she?
My stepdaughter. Why, do you know her?
That's the Count's young wife.
She's dead. I just discovered her body. Sorry, madam. I certainly didn't mean to be rude to you.
Serge got most of the stuff in the will.
Count's will is this. I hereby bequeath all my estate to Mary, my one and only daughter. And as for the Countess, she may inherit only what the law requires.
To commit suicide, why then didn't she shoot herself? So you think she was first murdered and then hanged to put us off the track? Exactly. But this is absurd.
Count's young wife practices black magic and stuff.
Igor, come. I want you here.
Igor is played by Paul Naschy, Spanish horror director. For whatever reason, she lets Igor come over. She bares her bosoms, and then he bites her, makes her bleed.
Don't make me.
They have a weird relationship. Igor has a relationship with several other ladies, but they're dead.
Only you.
He hangs around with corpses and loves them.
The only ones I love.
They find some risque photos of dead people. Igor can't be found, but of course he's a suspect in the hanging woman's
Did you find Igor?
murder.
No. We managed to follow him as far as the cemetery, and then he just vanished.
I won't feel safe until he's been found. Thank you. You may go now, Doris.
Serge has a dispute with the butler. Igor meets Serge.
Dead. Murdered. And they killed the Count Mihaly. You murder us all. They're dead.
You should sleep.
Serge and Doris. Doris's father works in the castle there. He's some sort of scientist or something.
Your decision will have a great bearing on my future. I'm sure that my uncle would never have wanted you to discontinue your work.
That's the Doris's father.
Well, I'll go and have a look in his room, shall I? You know, I'll be interested to find out exactly what he left me. For all I know, I might have inherited a mountain of debts. Perish the thought.
Doris tries to offer herself in exchange for Serge letting her father stay on.
There's no point in going on. You're the most stupid girl I've ever known, Doris. I've been over this with your father this morning. I won't be taking the laboratory away from him.
They find the hanging woman's diary.
Are the only one who will read my words. You see, I am afraid because soon I expect to die, and I am now putting you, my daughter, in danger.
I guess it was the Count's diary.
Your loving father.
I will take my secret to the tomb. It's all so clear now. So that's why she went to the cemetery. My uncle had a document with him.
Of course, when they go to the tomb, they find it empty. Count's body is gone.
Not even the body. Have you come to any decision about what you're going to do with the house?
They perform a seance to try to reach Mary, the hanging woman.
Manifest. Speak to me. Speak
And then
to
she
me.
gets choked. Serge gets bashed on the head. And Igor, who was hiding in the little tomb inside the crypt, is being locked inside. And now suddenly the Count's body has returned. They find some blood coming out of that tomb, and that's where they're going to find Igor's body.
Come on! Help me to get him out! Look at this. What in the world does that mean? Number 37. Maybe he wanted to leave.
In the kitchen. I was preparing your dinner. You must eat something. What is it?
Is there somebody else besides ourselves in this house?
No, nobody else is here. Why?
Someone has just walked up those stairs.
It was Papa.
It's impossible.
They're wondering if bodies are being animated. They find Igor's body in the morgue, so he stabs it just to make sure. Sure as shit. Zombies. Doris is hiding in those catacombs where Igor used to play with the corpses, and oh boy, that's a problem.
Going from bad to worse for your
They
concern.
think Serge did it all.
Your story about the Walking Dead will never stand up. Pity those bodies were completely destroyed by the fire. No chance of performing an autopsy.
Serge cut himself, and then he wrote number 37 on there in his own blood. And then when he turns it over, he says it actually spells Leon. And that's Leon.
You did it. An admirable deduction.
You did it!
And now we see that Igor himself is
Igor,
reanimated.
my latest reanimation. Impossible. How have you done this?
I had discovered that by inserting a small capsule into the brain...
Nadia died because she would have persuaded you to sell the house, and if that had happened, all my plans would have failed. You see, it isn't only the laboratory that interests me, but also the passages which run
It's like a
underneath the
Scooby-Doo
house
episode. The bad guy's admitting how everything happened. Anyway, Serge escapes and he has to take care of Igor. And he does. Anyway, Serge escapes out of there and he's got to go rescue Doris now, who's still in the catacombs with the graves, or the Walking Dead. Meanwhile, Leon is getting attacked by his own creations.
Fire, Savage! Fire! We must destroy them! Cold run!
Anyway, the next day, Doris is taking her father back to town for burial. Uh-oh, that doesn't look good. And neither does that. Alright, let's talk about The Hanging Woman. This is a movie that used to appear on our video store shelves back in the 80s. It was in a big clamshell box. Couldn't tell you what company it was, but I ended up renting it, never watched it, but I ended up watching it. I taped it around in 1989 or so, but I ended up watching it sometime in the early 2000s, I think, when I retaped it. So, hadn't seen it since and didn't remember much about it. I didn't remember liking it all that much. Didn't remember really anything. So, anyway, what we got here is a Spanish horror film. It's about this guy named Serge who's coming to this town. It takes place in Scotland, I think, in the late 1800s. He's come there to because his uncle died, and he's seeing if he's part of the inheritance, which he is. He's going to get most of everything. His uncle's young wife, her name is Mary. She got left some stuff, but not a lot, so she's a little disappointed by that. There's a lot of strange goings on in and around this house. He sees an image, or he sees this woman hanging from a tree, and he's like freaking out. What the hell's that all about? She's dead. And then it turns out that's this other woman who was around earlier, and they think that she may have been killed and then hung after she was dead. I don't know. There's this guy, Igor, running around who's played by the director Paul Nasky. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. He doesn't direct this movie. He's just acting in it, and he's into necrophilia. He's got these 3 bodies, these corpses that he's diddles with here and there. There's another guy in this house who's kind of like a scientist guy. He's trying to reanimate frogs. Ultimately, what he wants to do is reanimate a human being, and that's what ends up happening here. He's got these zombies that he brings back to life, these dead people. He brings them back to life, so they're kind of like zombies, but he can't really control them at all, and then they end up killing him in the end. Eventually, Serge and this girl, Doris, I think, get out. Doris is actually the daughter of this scientist. I don't know. This movie's kind of all over the place, and it all ends well, I guess. Doris and Serge are okay. And then the last scene in the movie, Doris is going to take her father's body back to whatever big city, Glasgow, I don't know, for burial. And we see as there's 2 like hearses, or I guess they're wagons really. The first one is being driven by a zombie, and the second one is being driven by her, and her father's coffin is behind her. And then the last scene is like the coffin opening up and her father's coming out, I guess, and that's how the movie ends. I don't know. This movie goes kind of all over the place, but you know what? I kind of like. There's kind of like a gothic, creepy atmosphere about it, kind of similar to some old Hammer movies with some skeletons and secret passageways and caverns and coffins, and it's kind of a cool atmosphere in that respect, and I kind of dug that. The movie itself is kind of boring here and there. There's a few nude scenes in there to spice it up a bit. The ladies at least look good too, and that's about it. Now, this DVD was put out by Troma. It's got a couple other DVD editions out there that are not the greatest either. This one's not the best copy, but it's probably the best one you're going to find. The picture looks okay for the most part. The first couple minutes weren't that great, but the rest of it was okay. I didn't even realize this until I looked at this DVD yesterday. There's an extra movie on here, something called The Sweet Sounds of Death, with one of the actresses who was in Hanging Woman was also in Sweet Sounds of Death a few years earlier. So there's an extra movie I wasn't aware I had, so I guess I'll watch that too, huh? There's a bunch of extras on here too, believe it or not. There's an interview with Paul Nashi. I don't know how I pronounce it. Somebody tell me how I pronounce his name. Also an interview with the director too. So and there's a commentary track also. So Troma went all out with this one. So anyway, thank you, Troma. So anyway, let me know what you think about The Hanging Woman. If you've seen this Spanish horror film, leave some comments down below. We'll talk about it. The Hanging Woman. Watch it. Bye.